Hello Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma, welcome to the Culinary Kitchen. This is Chef Jason of Native Chef LLC. Today is a Thanksgiving meal that we're going to be doing, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We're going to be doing a turkey, a roasted turkey in the oven, and we're going to be doing some steamed green beans, and we're going to be putting a cranberry sauce on top of that with a little bit of Parm cheese. And we're also going to be doing a wild and brown rice pilaf, and we're going to be putting some fresh steamed butternut squash in there and some vegetables and make really bright colors. So just so thankful that you're watching today, and thankful I get to share my family's favorite Thanksgiving meal recipes with you. Going to be a great day, going to be a lot of fun cooking in the kitchen here. And again, thank you for watching. We got a lot to do. Sometimes you got to look at, especially when you're doing multiple items in a meal, you need to understand what needs to get started first, and that's obviously the turkey. The turkey's going to take about 3 hours in the oven, so sooner we get that in the oven, the better. So we'll get started. We got a lot to do. First off, one of the most important things we need to do is we need to make sure that the turkey is nice and dry. So you're going to have to sacrifice some paper towels for this. And just put them on the bottom of this red cutting board or whatever cutting board you're going to be using. Try not to use the same cutting board as you're going to be using your vegetables. And we're just going to pat this really, really dry. And the key to getting this turkey really, really brown, and that's what we want. We want a really nice and brown turkey, is we're going to rub it with a little bit of oil first. And then not only will this help it get it brown, but it'll help it hold on to our seasonings like glue. So what I have here is I have oregano, basil, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and black pepper. And I'm going to make a mix of all this real quick. And now what I want to do is I just want to season all over the turkey breast with this mix. Really, really season it well. Really tastes amazing. Now that the turkey is seasoned really well, we're going to put it in a roasting pan, and this has a nice rack in it that keeps it off the bottom, and we're not going to cover it or nothing. We're going to add about 4 cups of water here, and you may have to keep an eye on the water. If you start hearing it sizzle, you might have to add a little bit of water halfway through. Also, if you want to, you can take it out, a couple times and baste it with a basting brush. And that's what I'll probably do. So we're going to roast this uncovered at 375 degrees for about 2 hours, and about 2 3/4 hours to 3 hours. And the best way to check the temperature is with a meat thermometer. We want this about 165, and then we'll take it out and we'll let it rest really well. The turkey has about 30 minutes before we take it out, so we can start getting a few things done to make it easier later. And I'm going to cut up this butternut squash, and this narrow part here is solid, and then whenever you get to this bulby part, it's hollow in the middle. So we really want to use this part right here. We're going to get some nice small cuts. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel the edges off here. And then once I have the edges taken off, I'm going to cut down, and I'm going to make these thin slices here, probably about a little over 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to stack a few, and then I'm going to cross cut this way. And every time I cut through, I kind of pull it off of my knife so that it stays in place. And then we'll just simply dice this into small pieces. And then I moved it to a double boiler. Again, very important. It's got holes on the bottom, and I put this in here. We're going to use this also for the green beans, so we can do this ahead of time. These can be at room temperature because they're going to get reheated again with the rice when we toss it. So got my water at the bottom, put this on top. We're going to put the cover on it. We're going to bring it to a boil, and we're going to steam them until a knife easily penetrates them. And then our last vegetable cut before we can wash our vegetable cutting board. We're going to dice up our red onion for our rice. And you really want to focus in on small dicing this. Really fine dice. It'll be a nice presentation in the rice. And then I'm using fresh green beans here, and when you use fresh, you kind of have to keep an eye on these stems, so take the time to remove these stems. It takes a little time, but it's well worth it. It's a nice presentation, and to use these whole beans. And then once we get them done, we'll put them in our double boiler after our butternut squash is done. And now we're going to make a sauce, a cranberry sauce. Really easy. I just took a can of jellied cranberries and I just put it in a little bitty food processor here, and I'm just going to pulse this until it gets really smooth. And this is optional how you serve it. What I like to do is I like to put mine in a squeeze bottle, and then right before service I'll squeeze it right over on top of the green beans, and it gives a really nice presentation. Okay, the turkey's done. It took about 2 hours and 45 minutes, about 2 hours and 45 minutes in my oven. It might be different in yours, but the best way to use is a food thermometer. So we're about 170 right now, and that's where we want to be. So we want to let this rest really well, and we also want to cover it with a tin foil. We don't want to seal this. We just want to partially cover it and keep it loose on the ends, and this will help trap some of that moisture that's going to be coming up. It'll keep our turkey nice and juicy on the inside. And now that this is resting, we can start working on our rice. So what I did is I do 1/4 wild, 3/4 brown rice. Both are really good for you. The reason is because, you know, if we're fortunate to even have wild rice, it's pretty expensive. So doing it this way, it goes a lot longer. A pound will last you a lot longer. So I pre-rinsed it and drained it pretty well 3 times. And it's a 1/4 cup of rice. I'm going to put 3/4 cup brown rice, 2 cups water, and then we're just going to bring this to a boil. And then once we have it at a really full boil, I'm going to cover it. And I'm going to turn the temperature down to really low. And we're going to let this cook until the rice soaks up all the water. The beans are done here, and they're just right now. They still got a nice bite to them, but they're not really smushy. And you know, that's the way I like my beans. I still want a little bit of a bite. If you have a family member that has trouble chewing, you might have to cook them a little bit more. But this is the key, is that everything's not going to be done exactly at the same time. That's why it's so important to utilize that oven. So turn on your oven at 180. When you get an item done, put it in there and let it wait on you. That way you can move on to your next item. And that way everything's kind of done at the end instead of trying to time everything right. We didn't want to cook these too early, but then again, if they get done early, we have an option to kind of hold them. So we'll just remove these to a serving plate. And this is why I kind of stacked them in there, so I can grab them and they're all going to be lengthways. It's a nice presentation when we do that. And they're easier for our guests to grab. And then we'll take our cranberry sauce. And again, if you don't have a squeeze bottle, that's just fine. But I like to do a nice presentation, so I'll squeeze the cranberry sauce right on top. And then we'll just put a little bit of Parmesan cheese for a garnish. And again, we'll put this in the oven. It'll be waiting on us. And our rice is done here, and so we'll add it to a large bowl here and kind of separate it a little bit. It really looks really good with the mix of wild and brown rice here. So now we're at our butternut squash. And again, this is at room temperature, so the heat from the rice will heat it up. And we'll add most of our our blueberries. We'll add our red onion, salt and pepper. And we'll really mix this well. And then once we have it mixed really well, get that salt and pepper really incorporated into, or remove it out to our serving dish. And we can save, like I did, I saved a few blueberries just on top if we needed them. If you don't, that's just fine. Looks like quite a few landed on top here. And again, we're going to use our holding oven to hold this, and then we're going to carve our turkey. Now we'll carve our turkey. You got to be careful. That's why I like to wear gloves. This is still pretty warm. We could have probably let it rest another 10 minutes or so, but just be careful if it's still warm. So first thing we want to do is we want to take the breast off of the bone. So first off, we slice it right down, and then we find the edge of the breastbone right here, and we slice all the way down. And then we also slice down at the bottom, and right here there's a line right here. This is where we want to make our cut. We want to cut it off about right there, and we'll make a cut through here on the bottom. That way it's completely disconnected right here. And then what you want to do is you want to slide your fingers underneath the wishbone here. We need to separate the wishbone from the breast, and then all we do is we slide our hands down and we break it apart from the bone here. And then once we have both the breasts off the bone here, they're pretty easy to slice from here. We'll just kind of slice ½ an inch thick, whatever you like. And then we'll just shingle them right on top of a nice serving platter here. Well, thank you so much for watching today. I sure appreciate it. I had a great time cooking. I get to share some of our favorite recipes for Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to you guys. A few pointers from today's recipe. Make sure that you let the turkey rest. And it can be 45 minutes, an hour. An hour later, trust me, it's still going to be steaming. So don't worry about it getting like cold. The cooler it is, the easier it's going to be to cut off the bone. Remember to remove that wishbone. That's what's going to really hold on to the turkey, make that cut underneath, and then pull it off of the bone. Have those gloves. It's a good barrier. You can handle a hotter product if you have those gloves on. Just a lot of great recipes here. If you're looking for a new turkey recipe, try this one. I had a piece, and I'm telling you, it is so juicy and tender, and it tastes amazing. It's easy food. There's so many recipes out there, you know, partially cover with tin foil for half the time, and turn up the heat and turn down the heat. And you know, this recipe's pretty dang simple. Get it seasoned, put water in it, put it in the oven, keep an eye on the water, add it if you need it. So this is another good recipe. The blueberries, if you want a few blueberries to put on top, save those, but use fresh berries, and you can use frozen blueberries if you need to. And again, practice on those knife skills. And one thing I really haven't covered in a lot of my videos is the fact that I do dishes as I go. I've always been like that. I always have water ready, so when I wash, I put it on a dish rack. And a lot of times those bowls that I wash, I reuse and I reuse and I reuse. And even when I serve food, people are serving, you know how people serve their food and sit down. I'm the last one to sit down because I can get half of my dishes done by the time everybody's done serving. So be efficient in the kitchen. Utilize your time correctly. Don't let all those dishes build up on you and then do them at the end, because you're going to have a bad experience. And you don't want to do that. Do those dishes as you go. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. Thank you to the Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma for bringing me in to present from my home. I'm just so fortunate and thankful for that. I appreciate it. Until I see you in the next video, take care of yourselves and stay well. Miigwech.